thanks everybody for coming. Before we get started, I'd like for us all to have a moment of silence for our brother, Pat Amanifu Williams. He was a regular presence, as many people know, at our Cuba Solidarity events over many, many years and decades, with his colorful outfits, and everybody would remember Amanifu. He was a contemporary of Malcolm X and a strong supporter of the Cuban Revolution going back to when he left the U.S. Navy in the 1960s. So can we have a moment of silence for Brother Amanifu Williams? Thank you. Okay, so this is our first event around the caravan since we had one in June. Last month we decided to go to DC for the national caravan, and that was very successful thanks to the work of Carlito and Jason and a number of other folks. We managed to fill a bus from New York to Washington, and we're part of the 350, 400 people or so that showed up at that very important demonstration that we were able to defend. We were able to defend that action even though we were outnumbered by many, many hundreds, maybe even over 1,000 or 1,000 of right-wingers that had been mobilized and paid for bus trips to come up to Washington for all kinds of activities. They tried to provoke us. We weren't provoked. We had a very strong discipline. Many organizations came together to defend that action. And when we heard about the attack on the mural here, this beloved community mural, which says so much also about solidarity with the Cuba, in the symbolic face of Che, and along with the mural and Alviso Campos and the revolutionary heritage that's represented by both of these struggles of heroic Caribbean countries, we knew when that came under attack after a Facebook post and as part of the growing shall you say, revitalization or energizing of some of these right-wing forces since the July event, highly orchestrated protests in Cuba that where U.S. imperialism tried to exploit the very conditions, the increasingly difficult, very difficult conditions that the U.S. blockade, the asphyxiation policy of the U.S. government in total continuity between Trump and Biden has carried out. But when we saw this attack and other protests, and we saw how quickly the community, including Cuba Solidarity activists that are part of the community and part of the organization, how quickly the community came together to defend this mural, and beyond that, to defend our space, because this mural is part of our space to carry out work against U.S. aggression against Cuba, for the independence of Puerto Rico, and for many other causes that are in the interest of the working class in this community and across the country. So we knew that this was where we wanted to have the caravan this month. Unfortunately, because of the rescheduling of the marathon, the bicycle marathon, we were not able, although we were originally told we could, have the car caravan aspect of these things to take place at the Harlem State Office building. So we had to call that off, and I want to thank everybody for coming to what this is, a rally. We'll have to figure out, and we'll have meetings that we'll invite everybody to for Cuba C to figure out our next caravan that'll include a rally and a place where we can have it and to really build it for all the reasons that we're all here today. Because we've seen the impact of this propaganda blitz that coincided, quote unquote, with the highly orchestrated actions against Cuba. So we know the battle of ideas is joined, and this is part of our public activity and part of that to counter our counter-offensive to that. So I think I've spoken more than enough. I want to call on some folks to give presentations briefly, 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll disperse. So let me start, as I often do at these things, with somebody from Casa de las Americas, which is the oldest Cuban-American organization in the United States that has been in support of Cuba and against the blockade. So, Jaime Mendieta.
Okay, can you hear me, man? Doing it right? Okay. First of all, I want to thank everybody for being here. It's been a hassle because of the change, the confusion. So, we would have been much larger if we had things clear. If the police hadn't changed the thing at the last minute, although it probably would have been a disaster anyway with the bikes and us in the caravan. But now we just do the best we can. First of all, the battle in Cuba, the groups that came out on July 11th, that's pretty much done with. Now we have two things. First of all is working against the blockade. We have to focus on that. We have to focus on getting together, getting our organizations together, maybe with other larger, more liberal organizations, and start a campaign to send aid to Cuba. Medical aid, food aid, whatever we can. And if we get the right combination of people and groups, we can do something really large. That's one thing we can do. Now another thing, of course, is continue our political work. Our political work here in New York is, of course, very important. Unfortunately, we don't have the same contacts we did due to the virus. Normally, we would have much closer contact if we knew what was going on in Cuba. We could deal with the mission, with the Cuban mission in New York. We can organize the groups better. A lot of times the groups come together if it's called from our friends. So that's one thing that is so far has been a detriment. Now, as far as can happen now, it is working for the next caravan, which would, well, at the meetings it will be decided, but everybody has to get out the information of the next caravan. That's the thing we can do immediately. Okay,
Thank you. I don't want anybody to take it personally, but I'm going to do this. Thank you, Jaime. I'm going to spray this just to be safe in this crazy era. So, next I would like to ask our sister and really one of the central organizers of defending the mural from Virtual Boricua. I would like to ask Sister Marina Ortiz to say a few words.
Hello? Hi. So, yes, I live here in East Harlem. I was part of the team that helped restore the mural in 2011. It's been here since 1999. And in 2011, when Lolita Lebron passed, we came here to pay homage because our murals in El Barrio, they become cultural centers, right? So important dates in our history, we come here to share our stories, their stories, with the community. So 2010, 2011, we restored the mural, and it's been here since 1999 with no problem in the community because people understand the theme that we're talking about here, which is Cuba and Puerto Rico are two wings of the same bird. And that is based on the poem of Lola Rodriguez de Tio, who talked about the fight for independence in Cuba and Puerto Rico. Unfortunately, in Puerto Rico, we have not been liberated, but we always are working in solidarity with the Cuban people. So when a few weeks ago, a few young people decided that after all this time they didn't like to see Che Guevara's face on the wall and threatened to destroy the mural, well, somebody came up from Miami for one of their rallies at the UN and proceeded to harass us in the street as we petitioned folks for support for the mural. After we left, the guy threw red paint on Che Guevara's face. And we were deeply, deeply upset. And some of the artists who helped restore the mural when it faded immediately came together and fixed Che's likeness. And the understanding was that we will not tolerate this one moment longer than necessary. And we invite the community to support us as we hope to finish restoring the rest of it. We want to send a clear message to folks in New York City, East Harlem, and the Puerto Rican, Cuban, Dominican, diaspora, all of them. We support your independence and your right to say no to the U.S. war machine. We support the people of Cuba in making their own decisions for their own well-being. And that includes removing the blockade. That does not include dictating what they should and shouldn't do according to what the U.S. government wants. Because we know that the U.S. government is only about colonialism, imperialism. They want to control every single country on this hemisphere and the rest of the world. And they want to dictate and keep people poor and starving. And they do it by force, by murder. So if you want to talk about dictators and evil, you have to look right here in this country. So we're here to support Cuba. We're here to support the Cuban people and the people of El Barrio. And if you want to learn more, you can talk to me afterwards. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marina. Next, I'd like to bring up from the Venceremos Brigade and also an activist in Cuba City, Brother Omar Shabor.
Amir.
Amir.
Peace, brothers and sisters. I wasn't expecting to talk, but I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that all of us decided to have the caravan this month right here at the mural, given the recent events that happened this month, how this mural got attacked by certain reactionary gusanos, one being a woman that she's from this community, and another is some guy that came from Hialeah from Miami and thought that it was okay to come over here and disrespect this community. And I'm happy the fact that I was also a part of the group that restored the mural in reaction to what occurred, because we don't have to stand for this, and we have to push back amongst a group of people that say that they love Cuba. They say that they love their island, but you know, loving your island is not asking for a U.S. military invasion. It's pushing for the U.S. to remove that blockade for over 60 years. And we have to understand very well that we have to defend this mural because it has two important historical figures, Don Pedro Albizu Campos and El Comandante Che Guevara. There are two historical figures within the fight for anti-colonialism and anti-imperialism in Latin America. And especially, they bring together also the Puerto Rican and Cuban community. That's what the name of this mural is, Dos Alas, two wings. That Cuba and Puerto Rico are two wings of the same bird. And the fact that Cuba, the Cuban Revolution is interconnected with Cuba, with Puerto Rico's independence, but with the rest of Latin America as well. The Cuban Revolution was a watershed moment for Latin America and for how new worlds were possible. And us out here, that we are supporters and we are friends of revolutionary Cuba, whether through the good times and through the bad times. We show this by coming here and having these type of events. And I just want to say too, The fact that these so-called protests are now over, and we have to deal right now with the Biden administration constantly attacking Cuba and putting more sanctions, and also this community out here that they're just confused, and they're just being a tool for the ruling class to push U.S. hegemony and recolonization of the island. But us, as we are the friends of revolutionary Cuba, we are the children of Fidel, the children of Che, Camilo, Vilma, that we stand here in solidarity. So we say, que viva el Che Guevara!
Viva!
Que viva Fidel!
Viva!
Que viva Vilma!
Viva!
Que viva Camilo!
Viva!
Que viva esta comunidad!
Viva!
Que viva Cuba revolucionaria y socialista!
Viva!
Cuba sí, bloqueo no! Cuba sí!
Bloqueo no!
Cuba sí!
Bloqueo no!
Cuba sí!
Bloqueo no!
Thank you, Yamir.
This is sort of, we have a tradition with these things. I didn't tell Brother Yamir and maybe some other folks that I'll call on. We just try to have more or less an open mic. And I'm calling on people from some of the groups that have been at the backbone of these activities and here today. But I would like to next ask somebody I did talk to beforehand. I think this is the first time that the U.S. Peace Council has been on one of these actions. I want to welcome them here and ask their sister, Jackie Lavelle, to say a couple of words. Lavelle.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I had no plans to speak today, but I figured if I got here, the least I could do is convince everybody that I believe in the socialist movement that Cuba has been heroic in developing. And just so you know, the socialist movement in the United States has been here as long as we have been, as long as the country has been a country. It's not only, socialist movement does not only exist in Cuba, but they are making a heroic effort to prove to the world that socialism is truly the future. Cuba is a very, very advanced country. You know, education is free in Cuba. Medical care is free in Cuba. And the United States is embarrassed that a little socialist island like Cuba is providing free education and free medical care, and this big capitalist beast of a country with the most wealthiest country in the world can't even get their act together to give us free health care. That's a scandal. And just so you have more of a human face on this issue about health care, there has been a shortage of syringes, and there are organizations that have been raising thousands of dollars to send syringes to Cuba. But let me just mention to you one thing that a lot of people don't realize. Cuba has made their own vaccine. Yes. Now what do you think about that? What do you think about that? They are so advanced. They have a biochemical lab that Fidel started many years ago. And now they've proved that they can even develop their own vaccine. And they are giving vaccine to the people as we speak. I am in touch daily with a friend of mine who happens to be a percussion teacher, so I talk to him every day. His name is Lazaro. And recently Lazaro had a toothache, okay? And he was in a lot of pain. So I innocently said, well, Lazaro, just take an aspirin or ibuprofen. He said, what's that? I haven't seen a bottle of ibuprofen in a year. He said, we don't have it. No eye, he said, Jackie. It's not here. They don't have Band-Aids, aspirin. And still they move on. And still they move on to become the future. Now, Biden has been a real disappointment. He has not reversed the draconian policies of Trump to the point And even those of us that are sending money to Cuba, they manage to stifle the money transfer. It's really, and they have no, not only is the medicine in short supply, the dollars are in short supply, and still they move ahead. So we need, and everybody has spoken on it today, we need to put pressure on Biden and our Congress people. They think we don't support Cuba. There's a lot of support for Cuba. I'm sorry, I'm too long. All right. So, but thank you for listening, and remember, support Cuba. It's the future.
That's what we're here. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you very much. Okay, just a couple more speakers. Again, thank everybody for coming. This is our beginning of our counteroffensive. There's about 15 of these taking place today across the United States here in the month of August, which is always slow. But we're revving up our activities, and I just want to say that this is happening around the world. There is starting to be aid starting to come into Cuba. Mexico has stood up. These are forces that are defying the blockade. So now I would like to ask Roger Colero from the Socialist Workers Party to speak. Roger is also the SWP candidate for mayor. Roger.
Thank you, Ike. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Good to be here with you today. Okay, thank you. On behalf of the Socialist Workers Party and its candidates for mayor and comptroller and others, I want to add our voice to the opposition against the embargo and against the economic war that Washington has been waging against the Cuban people and its socialist revolution for over 60 years. We also want to add our voice to condemn the attack against the mural. Working people need every inch of space in order for us to debate, to educate ourselves about our own history and about culture and every other form of struggle that we need. I also wanted to speak a little bit about what has been said the previous speakers have talked about the necessity to educate about the Cuban Revolution, about the socialist revolution in Cuba, which is what Biden and every other president that came before is seeking to destroy. There is nothing else to defend about Cuba without the socialist revolution. And we must explain it, we must educate working people, because the Cuban people continue to demonstrate that. You just saw it once again with the contingent that went to Haiti. They went to Haiti just a couple of weeks, just last week, adding to the already dozens and dozens of doctors who have been there, it's like for years. In this book, Red Zone by Enrique Urbieta, it's about the medical brigade that went to West Africa to fight against Ebola. Urbieta says that sometimes people says that in Cuba, we need to forget about the heroic acts of the past, that we need to move on and just worry about the present things. And Urbieta explains, and then you see things like what happened in West Africa, and the response by the brigades in West Africa, the response by the Cuban people in Haiti, and you can see that moral reserve, the solidarity, internationalism that lives within the Cuban people today. And that is what Washington aims to destroy. Now, just 1 second. Last week we had a rally in the neighborhood in support of the fight for Puerto Rico's independence. It's a good example of the kind of things that we need to do to educate about our struggles. We're beginning to see small strikes going on here in the United States, but also in Puerto Rico. It's among these workers that we're going to find allies to this struggle. Truck drivers in Puerto Rico, coal miners in Alabama, Nabisco workers in several states around the country. It is to those that we can find allies and find a way towards building a growing unity among working people. So thank you very much. Let's keep going.
Viva Cuba Revolucionaria! Thank you, Roger. When we end this rally, if anybody stops at the any of the bodegas or grocery stores and you see all those rows of Doritos and Nabisco and all those junk food that you probably shouldn't eat anyway, but those workers nationally are on strike right now, and thank you, we're all here for showing solidarity with that. Is there somebody from Workers' World Party that can come and give a brief thing? Bill Sachs, Workers' World Party. Thank you, Bill. On behalf of Workers' World Party, we want to offer our support, total support, to the defense of this very important mural, which represents the anti-imperialist solidarity between the Puerto Rican people and the Cuban people, which has been going on for many years. And whatever we can do to help maintain, to make sure that this mural stays where it is, we would do so. In addition, on behalf of Workers' World Party, we offer our total solidarity with the movement to end the criminal, illegal blockade against the people of Cuba. This blockade represents the longest restrictive sanctions against any country in the world, against a small country of 11 million people. And it's created great hardships, it's created medical issues, economic issues, and financial issues that have harmed the Cuban people over these many years. And yet, Cuba has been able not only to survive, but to thrive. And as one of the speakers said, to develop a socialist society based on socialist principles and organization, to provide free healthcare, free education, free cultural events, and to build a society based on people and not profits, and the life of people, not corporations and profits. And that makes it very incumbent on us in the international community, but particularly in the United States, to fight as hard as we can to end this blockade with rallies like this, with pressure on Congress, with whatever we can do, articles, education, and most important, to bring people to Cuba to visit when Cuba opens up, to see what socialism is and how this country has not only survived, but has provided a high living standard and solidarity for its people. Now, Cuba, of course, teaches us about international solidarity, and Cuba has responded to countries all over the world. In fact, a group of medical professionals arrived in Haiti just the other day to assist with medical supplies and medical care to the victims of not only the hurricane, but the earthquake. And now it's time for us to pay the Cubans back for their international solidarity and to join with countries around the world and activists around the world to stand up and end the blockade and for the U.S. to get out of Guantanamo now. Thank you.
Viva Cuba revolucionaria!
Viva Cuba! Great, fantastic. Brother from the Puerto Rican National Party?
Yes.
What's your name, sir?
Walter Alomar.
Walter. Thank you, Brother Walter from the Puerto Rican National Party. I want to thank the Puerto Rican Nationalist Party for sending so many people last week to New York, to Washington for the action. So here you go, brother. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Walter Alomar. I'm from the Puerto Rican Nationalist Party, the New York chapter, as well as the president of the Organization for Culture of Hispanic Origins. And I was part of helping restore the mural here in the sense where I kept everybody safe while they were restoring it because there was some threats of violence. And one of my positions was to keep everybody safe to make sure that the mural will be restored to its natural order. Puerto Rico and Cuba has always been brothers in arms since the beginning. And if I'm permitted, I would just briefly like to talk about one thing regarding Puerto Rico. September 20th, 2021 will be the 4-year anniversary of Hurricane Maria striking the island of Puerto Rico and costing the lives of more than 4,645 victims. My organization is erecting a monument here at Taino Towers. It's going to honor the victims of Hurricane Maria. The event will take place at September 20th this year at 10 a.m. We'll have several guest speakers, some celebrities as well. And I'm asking anyone if they can please come down. It's a free event. It's open to the public. It's going to be outdoors. So it's open for all. Anybody can come on down, express your feelings, your thoughts on what took place that day. Light a candle, say a prayer. We'll have some live music as well. So if you can, one of my compañeros is passing around flyers right now regarding the event. So please come on down. So we're also having another event on September 12th as well. I'll have some more information about that later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Please, Walter and brothers and sisters from the Puerto Rican National Party, send us online. Please send us online that material and for the September 12th action, and we will make sure to publicize it because we have a very big list for Cuba Solidarity. Okay, before we break up, I'd like to ask Aaron Feely Naham, who is representing the New York, New Jersey, Cuba Sea Coalition, which has been the group that's been organizing these solidarity caravans, to give us a brief update. Many people have spoken about the difficult conditions because of the blockade and the pandemic situation in Cuba. But I'd like Aaron to just give us a brief update on the fantastic response we've had in the United States with the Syringes for Cuba campaign. Thank you, Aaron.
Hello? Hi. I think all of you are aware, because most people that I look out on are Cuba Solidarity activists, that there was a dire need because of the U.S. embargo for supplies in Cuba. At a time when Agala, the homegrown vaccine that Cuba had created, took 3 syringes per dose, they had no syringes thanks to the U.S. embargo. In a very short time, 4 to 6 weeks, after this was known, the Canadians first began to gather syringes, and then the U.S., various solidarities groups from the Saving Lives campaign, all of the solidarity groups got together, and $650,000 has been raised. We have sent over millions now of syringes. They arrived in Mariel Port. These syringes are now in people's arms, giving out the vaccine. It took them less than a week to get them to the various clinics within the area, and they are being distributed. We still have several. We have more money. We have more syringes to go. Right now, because of the issue in Haiti, there's less emphasis on other supplying things in other areas. But the plan is to have a monthly shipment of medical supplies and syringes. We've increased this now because they also need PPEs badly. So with the additional, we've spent $550,000. There's a little bit extra. We're going to use that to send medical supplies, PPEs, and various things that the Cuban government has said they're very much in need of. This is because of the generosity of this solidarity movement. It is because it's a way to act, to tell the U.S. to stop this insane policy and let Cuba alone. Let them develop the way they should. No longer should they be with their boot on their neck. So thanks to the solidarity movements, Cuba is getting syringes.
Thank you. I was gonna end the program. No. Cuba sin bloqueo, no.
Cuba sin bloqueo, no. Viva Cuba revolucionaria.
We were gonna end and then do a little chanting and stuff, but we just have another sister that we want to definitely bring up. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Koya, from the Save Democracy in Brazil. Did I get that right? Anyway, she'll tell us. Sister, welcome. Close.
Hello, hey, thank you everybody. My name is Toya. I'm with Defend Democracy in Brazil. My comrade Miriam is over there too. And we from the people from Brazil, all we have is good things with Cuba. When I'm here in the United States and the Americans tell me, oh, what about Cuba? And I tell them, my whole life and beyond my life, the whole history of my country, we have a history of the U.S. interfering on my country. We have a history of the United States teaching my people how to torture each other. That's the history of the relationship we have with the United States. However, the relationship we have with the Cubans is a history of receiving our people when they were being persecuted by the militaries during dictatorship. It's a history where they, during the Lula and Dilma, the Workers' Party's government, they send the doctors to places in Brazil where no doctor wanted to go, to attend people who never saw a doctor before. So the Brazilian people, all we have for the Cubans is solidarity, it should be thankful, and it should be also inspired by. They received a Lula. Right after he was out of jail, he went to Cuba. He received a Lula there. He even treated Lula for COVID there, by the way. Treated Lula for COVID there, you know? And I want to also bring another perspective for the people here in this country. Because I think not too long ago, we were seeing the sad images of the people in Afghanistan who finally tried to manage to put the Americans out of that country. And as we are seeing that process and we are seeing that happening, not too long ago, the Americans, when I say that is the United States government, right? They were out there talking about Cuba. Oh my God, Cuba. And then this happened in Afghanistan. And at the same time this was happening in Afghanistan, the Cubans themselves were in Haiti, helping the Haiti people because of another earthquake. And we see, I've been to Cuba many times. I have my dear friends in Cuba. I worked on the case of the Cuban fans too, you know, and I know how much this blockade is making these people in Cuba suffer every day because of the blockade of the United States blockade. But even though, under all those conditions, they sent people to Haiti when the earthquake came. So in the same week, they were sending doctors to Haiti. The United States were dropping people from airplanes in Afghanistan. So we see who cares about human rights at the end of the day. We see who cares about humanity at the end of the day. And this is the Cuban government, this is the Cuban people. It's not Biden, it's not Trump, it's not the U.S. imperialist government, it's not that. And we in Brazil, Lula is with the Cuban government. We are with Lula. We're gonna take power back in Brazil. And we're gonna not only support the Cuban people, but we're gonna support Venezuela, we're gonna support Maduro, we're gonna support Bolivia, we're gonna support Peru, we're gonna support Ecuador, and Latin America is gonna stand up back again, because the United States has no peace with us, because we're gonna stand back again. Thank you.
Maybe the very first government that the United States overthrew, democratically elected government, was the government of Shabor in Brazil in 1964. And why did they overthrow them? One of the main reasons was because they refused to break diplomatic relations with Cuba at a time when the United States was forcing every government in Latin America and in the Caribbean, with the exception of Mexico, to break relations with Cuba. Today it's a different world in Latin America. Today, the Achilles heel, I will say, of the U.S. blockade against Cuba, and one of the main sources of outside pressure that can force the Biden administration to shift, will be from Latin America, from the peoples and in many governments in Latin America. That was really what made Obama shift in 2014, the isolation at one summit after another. But anyway, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for this really spirited rally. We're going to get a lot more numbers in September 25th. And let's continue to support the Syringes campaign, the PPE campaign, and fight to end the blockade. Thank you, everybody. Cuba sí, bloqueo no. Cuba sí, bloqueo no. Cuba sí, bloqueo no. Cuba sí, bloqueo no. Cuba sí, bloqueo no.
Bloqueo no. Cuba sí.